Hey there. Welcome back to another conversation with no one, where I attempt to share my experience of living in a state of somewhat non-attachment to my character and duality. This is conversation 4, which are more like conversations with someone, where I like to address some of the things people bring up in comments on the conversations we have there. And the other day I actually received my very first request to talk about something specific. So thank you for that, Matt. I appreciate hearing what people are interested in hearing me talk about. So you asked me to talk about several very common non-duality talking points: time, the past and present, and free will / choice. I call these talking points because there are several huge concepts like this that those studying non-duality spend a whole lot of time trying to get their heads around. You can find countless viewpoints, discussions, and arguments about what the truth is. So I wanted to talk about all three of these at the same time because of what all these things have in common, for me at least. And what they have in common is they don't matter at all. So, I mean, everything I have ever read or heard about these things are all, from my experience, equally true. I accept all the explanations as man-made dualistic concepts that have no objective meaning. And we can form whatever ideas and perspectives about these things we want, put them into words that please us, and we'll still never be able to accurately express the truth, which is something beyond knowing and something that we're not currently experiencing. However, the relationship my character has with all of these experiences has changed dramatically. I know that's come up in some of my other conversations, but I'm not sure I've ever talked about these things specifically, and it's in this context. So I know I've talked about time before. Time has become a curious thing. I feel as if I'm actively experiencing all those moments I label as the past, and all of my thoughts about the future. They feel like they both feel like timelines that currently exist, future memories. I guess it's sort of like being immersed in a video game I spent countless hours playing. What I experience as happening now has also happened before and will continue happening in the future. But I'm also aware of all the things possible that I'm not currently experiencing still existing. Just because I'm not experiencing it at this moment doesn't mean it's not existing. And they're still existing and not existing to the same degree. Everyone I meet is every version of themselves, and when the moments I interact with them, I'm only experiencing a tiny sliver of the whole. And when it comes to the past and future, well, I do love the story of my past. It's a good story that I enjoy telling. I enjoy the stories about my future. But in the meantime, I'm here now, which is not defined by either story. And it's not defined because that require comparison. And the only things I can compare those stories to would be other stories. So what's the point? I also experience that everything is always the right thing at the right time. Everything begins when it's supposed to, when it does, and lasts as long as it does. So I don't bother creating a feeling about it because it's just is. Day and night are just a series of moments that contain a variety of variables to my experience. I don't prefer one to the other. The same goes with seasons. The season I'm in right now, the temperature I'm at right now is where I'm at. So there's no reason to compare it to other temperatures that aren't happening at that moment. I guess I should be grateful that I can still play the game of time pretty well. It helps my character fit in with navigating society. I've slowed my life down so much that accomplishing material goals happens incrementally over periods of time. And yet I also can change everything in an instant if I need to, if things happen, because I'm just not attached. I have to say I'm mostly on time for appointments and have no problem scheduling the things that I need or want to do. I might procrastinate because they don't need to be done at any particular time, but if other people are involved, that's the parameter of what is, so I can respect that. But I also don't care if plans are canceled on me or things are running drastically late. My best friends can ghost me for as long as they want with no explanation, and whenever they do reach out, it's always now, so nothing has changed from the last now we shared. So I guess it's kind of like a story I step into and out of as needed. And I know the subject of free will and whether we have a choice is definitely the source of a lot of discussion, fascinating discussion. But for me, it's kind of like, how long is a piece of string? My feeling about the whole thing is I think that we probably experience a version of free will. It's not completely free because our characters and all the possible variations of their experience are, by their very nature, finite. You know, we can only see across a certain spectrum and hear across a certain spectrum. There's only so many physical things that can happen to us in a physical world. But it seems to me that within these possible choices, we can choose which experiences we get to have. We get to create the experiences because it's a story we're making up as we go along. Sort of like we all only know so many words in whatever languages we speak. So we're limited by those words. But at the same time, we have the freedom to shape and guide the words we choose, the ones we choose to share within that set of the ones we know. And the experiences we get, depending on the words we choose, can be vastly different. And there are actions you can take to expand or shrink your choices, like studying new languages or choosing not to swear. And it seems like there's some things that we can't choose that are products of random generation, like where we're born, color of our skin, how tall we are, etc. But we always have control over how we perceive these experiences, how we perceive and experience all of those things. So you're not too tall or too short. You're the height you are, and that comparison only comes from comparing to other things. So I say we only have some control also because our characters are heavily influenced by the conditioning of our environment, our society, emotional traumas, things like that. And that makes it extremely hard for us to break free of programmed emotional responses that we've learned or created for ourselves. And the more unaware we are of those influences, the more under their control we are. The more we're reacting instead of acting. And ultimately it just feels like, for me anyway, it feels like we're playing out the same finite amount of storylines over and over. There seems to be endless variations, but nothing we do or experience is ever really new. Anything we think, feel, or do has all been done. It's all been done before, even if the details are different shades of gray. Like with the video game analogy, we can play the game any way we choose, but only within the parameters of how the game is programmed, and the choices we make within the game. We have free will in the game as we play, but we're not free to change the way the game is played. I don't know if that's really accurate. Hopefully you get what I'm going for. I don't know, maybe I should compare it to music. There are a limited amount of notes that we can hear and experience with our biology, and every single combination of these notes has been played endless times before, and no new combinations can ever exist unless we discover a way to experience a wider spectrum of sound waves, or experience the ones we can hear in deeper ways. And yet we have the experience of hearing new music every day because of the vast amount of variables like tempo, time signatures, instruments, song structure, lyrics. And when all these things come together, we experience it as something new if we've never encountered that specific combination of variables before. But if we broke down any song to its components, we'd find that we recognize all of them. None of them are unique or even rare. But I also wonder why we even care if there's free will or not. What does that change? If I've already done everything I'll experience as my future because my past and future are all happening at once, then I have nothing to worry about. I still experience choosing my own adventure, but with the comfort of knowing that every choice I make was the one I was going to make. I can choose to create meaning around that or not. But all of my past choices were perfect because they led me here. So with that logic, all of my future choices are perfect for leading me to other heres. I think that's probably easier for me to do now that I value the story of my past and I see a purpose in every mistake or disaster that struck. And it's probably easier the older I get, because from where I am now, I'm looking back further than I have left to look forward. So I have a better perspective on how my road led me here. I'm sure it'd be a lot harder if I was much younger. I remember the feeling that there was so much at stake with each choice I made. If I made a mistake, I would ruin my life. And so as it is where I'm at now, I'm grateful to have far fewer variables to choose from. There's fewer possible outcomes for my choices, and I also feel like I've accomplished everything in my life that I need before I die. But if I had one thing I could tell my younger self, I'd say, relax. There's some part of you that knows exactly what it's doing. And the only way you get that trust or that faith is to keep proving yourself right over and over. Anyway, thanks for listening on this beautiful spring day. If you have anything else you're curious to have me talk about, please let me know. I enjoy having these conversations with someone as much as I do with no one. So, thanks again for listening.